The tunes you know, the lyrics, though, tweaked in protest. Good evening, I'm Marivelle Tarouk. A group of students, parents, and workers took to singing in the rain today as another one-day teacher strike looms. The province and teachers' unions remain deadlocked over contract negotiations, neither side budging on issues like class sizes, e-learning, and a wage cap. Angelina King caught up with some of today's protesters.
The portraits have made a big mess. La 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 la.
Dozens braved the rain, singing Christmas carols with a twist.
Jingle bells, ain't it swell, to fight for all our kids.
The rally was organized by Ontario Education Workers United. Their message, the future of public education is at stake unless the province reverses its cuts.
Cuts hurt kids.
We're deeply concerned about the increase to class sizes, the mandatory e-learning, and the fact that the government has not committed to full-day kindergarten funding.
These cuts will affect the ability for my children to receive a quality education.
They came from across the GTA to spread their message. Many at the rally say their biggest concern is class sizes.
It's just really hard to give each child individual attention that they deserve and they need when our classes are so large. Especially grades 4 and up. My son is one of 34 children in his classroom.
One concession the province says it's made during bargaining is changing the class size increase from 28 down to 25 in 4 years. The rally comes in the midst of tense contract talks between education unions and the province. Yesterday, the high school teachers union announced a third one-day strike this Wednesday. Schools in Toronto won't be affected, but ones in York and Halton will be. In a statement, Education Minister Stephen Lecce says the job action is all about salaries, saying in part, "We have made a reasonable offer on compensation, a $750 million increase. We are calling on OSSTF to stop job action, accept private mediation, and focus on classrooms, not more money for members." Meanwhile, elementary school teachers ramped up their Work to Rule campaign earlier this week, and Catholic teachers will be in a legal strike position a week from today.
We will stand behind education workers through whatever it takes to get these cuts off the table and get a fair contract settled.
The parents, teachers, and students here say all of this has brought them together, and they plan on holding actions like this until the government agrees to fully reverse the cuts to public education. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
A 33-year-old woman is dead after she was thrown from a taxi in a two-vehicle crash in Port Colborne early this morning. It happened on Highway 3 near Miller Road just before 2 a.m. Police say a taxi with 5 occupants collided with an SUV. 6 others were sent to hospital with minor injuries. Police have identified a 61-year-old woman who was found dead after a fire in Etobicoke last week. It happened Wednesday night at a house on Stallion Place near Highway 27 and Rexdale Boulevard. When crews arrived, the home was fully engulfed in flames. Firefighters found the remains of Toronto woman Yvonne Batchelor-Vassell inside the residence. A 24-year-old man has been charged with arson in connection with the fire. Police say he could face further charges. An Ottawa bus driver is publicly calling out OC Transpo, the city's transit agency. In an open letter, he says the service is not dependable and personally apologized to all transit riders in Ottawa.
We see these people standing on the street corner waiting for us when we're a half hour late, and we understand, we know we're a half hour late, so we're not, we're here to deliver a service, and we're not being given the tools to adequately deliver that. And to be frank, it's taken me a couple of years to grow the guts that it has taken to come out, and I mean, I'm putting my job on the line. I really don't know if I'm going to be working on Monday.
Grover says poor scheduling is causing commuter wait times to go up. He's also raising the issue of absenteeism, saying many employees are off the job, causing others to have to pick up slack. This means longer shifts with no time for food or bathroom breaks. He also criticized the management and the low employee morale. This comes after the city slashed several bus services in their downtown core to make way for the new LRT. Grover says he was hoping bus schedules would improve after the LRT was introduced, but he says he's seen little improvement. He wants the city to acknowledge the issue and have a dialogue with bus drivers to come up with solutions. Grover's manager, John Manconi, responded, saying he wished Grover came to him first. He said, quote, "I pride myself in being a very open door and walk-around manager and leader." And when asked on whether he thought Grover might face repercussions, he said, "I don't comment on labor relations matters," adding, What I do encourage him to do is pick up the phone and call me and come see me." Some Toronto residents are lashing out against a proposal to hike TTC fares next year, but the mayor believes there is no avoiding it.
Fact is that in the coming year, we're going to significantly, again, increase service. 4 or 5 of the busiest bus routes in the city that carry daily 160,000 people are going to have augmented service. We're hiring more than 120 new drivers. We're hiring more than 50 people who are going to help enforce the payment of fares, because we're losing millions of dollars thanks to people who don't pay their fares on the TTC. So if we're going to do all those things to provide for a better transit service, then we're going to have to recover that money. The city itself...
So if you use cash or buy individual Presto tickets, those are staying at $3.25 for adults, but using your Presto card will go up by a dime to $3.20. A monthly Presto Pass will jump nearly $5 to $156. Senior and youth fares will also go up by 10 cents, regardless of how you pay. If approved at a board meeting on Monday, the changes would take effect March 1st. The TTC expects the hike to generate more than $31 million. Well, there's a giant tunnel being dug right underneath the city. The massive project will ensure that when it rains, no sewage ends up overflowing into Lake Ontario. As Natalie Nanowski reports, once it's done, you'll be able to swim anywhere along the waterfront.
Soon, images like this will be a thing of the past, all because of Toronto's new water storage tunnel. It's starting to be dug underground.
So we are about 50 meters underground, which is the equivalent of about 17 stories. And it's in this tunnel where they're going to be storing sewage and stormwater before it's treated.
We're building a system that will capture what overflows our sewage system.
That happens when we get heavy rain like this, or this, or this. Those storms push sewage right into the downtown harbor.
We want to capture that overflow now, and this system will do that. We will then hold it in the system, and then after the storm passes, we will treat that flow as well. So we will no longer be discharging that diluted sewage into the Don River and our inner harbor, and that will protect our environment.
This will be a huge upgrade to the city's aging system. This machine, named Donnie, will be digging the 22-kilometer tunnel.
So as it keeps turning, it's essentially boring through the rock. All the spoils go inside of here.
Donnie can bore through 20 meters in a day. It takes 5 days to complete 1 kilometer.
From this point here at Ashbridges Bay, we will work our way to the Don River. And once we hit the mouth of the Don River, it'll make a sharp turn to the right, and it'll go north all the way up and curl around to the top of what's called the Coxwell Sewer.
The tunnel will also run from the Don River to Ontario Place. The whole thing comes with a $3 billion price tag. The project will ensure that every single one of the city's beaches will be clean enough to swim in, no matter the weather.
When there are not those storms, the beaches are of the highest quality measured internationally, and that's the way we want it every day.
Essentially what you're building here is the foundation so you can grow the city for the next 50 to 100 years.
The hope is to have the project done in a decade. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Police are asking for the public's help after 19 puppies were stolen from a barn north of Guelph yesterday. It happened at a rural property in Pilkington Township. Police say the owner had listed the puppies in an online ad before the theft. The dogs are around 10 weeks old. There are 3 red and apricot golden doodles. 4 are golden doodles and 12 are black lab shepherd doodle mixes. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Well, it's time for our first look at the weather for this weekend with Sonia Sash. So pretty soggy out there today, Sonia.
It was. It was a very soggy start to our weekend. That does continue as the cold air makes its way through. It's going to transition into snow. I'm going to show you that in just a little bit. But right now, Toronto is 2 degrees, and to the north, 0. And again, that's where we're seeing a lot of that transitioning into snow. So if you were traveling, definitely saw that slushy snow. We are going to see, though, that snow continue, and it's mostly behind that system where we're going to see those snow squalls in effect, really impacting certain areas. And again, I'll break it all down for you. But in terms of the amounts of snow, well, Toronto in and around the 3-centimeter mark. The further north we go, we could see up to 10 centimeters of snow through to tomorrow, and that also includes the snow squalls that will continue into tomorrow. So a lot of that snow for certain areas have already fallen, but the wind gusts were quite severe, considering 50 to 60 kilometer wind gusts in the GTA. So again, you are going to feel that and across the GTA as well. Let's talk about the overnight. Well, Toronto, that's where we're going to see the cold air really dig in, 0 degrees into the overnight. And of course, it's going to be -8 the further north that we go. Huntsville in particular, more of that snow is going to continue by Sunday morning, -1, so a lot colder, more of that snow. So again, if you need to go Christmas shopping, just take it easy. The snowplows, though, have done a really great job in really cleaning things up, and we do have our eye on another system making its way through into Monday that might bring a little bit more snow.
Snow and snow and snow.
Snow,
Okay.
yeah, it is the season.
Got it. Yes. Thanks, Sonia.
Thank you so much.
The police dive squad's been out there since early this morning, and they've been joined this afternoon by the Navy dive squad with the HMNZS Wellington back on scene.
The harrowing search continues in New Zealand for victims of the White Island volcano eruption. 20 people are still in intensive care with serious burns, some needing skin grafts. Details on how Canadians are helping after the break. The death toll has grown to 15 in the wake of that volcanic eruption in New Zealand. For the injured, it will be a long road to recovery, and those survivors may be getting some help from Canada. Lorenda Redekop has the latest.
Paying their respects to those who died and supporting families and those injured. A tragedy that's touched people around the world. An Australian is the first victim to be officially named by New Zealand police. 21-year-old Crystal Browett was on a cruise with her parents and sister to celebrate her birthday. Her dad and sister were severely injured. Officials haven't released other names, but people are learning them. This teacher says her former student was among those killed.
You always think you have time to say your goodbyes, and I didn't have time to say my goodbyes.
The explosion left survivors severely burned and needing skin grafts. New Zealand says it needs 1.2 million square centimeters of skin.
Our colleagues from Canadian Blood Services did receive a call from the authorities in New Zealand, and since EMA Quebec manages the most important human tissue bank nationwide, they referred to us immediately.
It's the first time the agency has ever received an international call like this. He says if an official request comes, they have 25,000 square centimeters available. In New Zealand, a police recovery team returned to the island, searching on the ground and from the air. Conditions are unsafe, requiring protective clothing and a breathing apparatus. There's still a risk of another eruption. Searchers have also headed out on the water, hoping to recover the last of those still unaccounted for.
We've recovered the 6 obvious bodies, but we've got more work to do. We've got 2 more, and we're actually determined to get them back.
On Monday in New Zealand, the country will remember the victims with a minute of silence, exactly 1 week after the eruption. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
The impeachment process in Washington is headed for another milestone next week. That's when the articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump are expected to be approved. But that doesn't necessarily mean Trump will be removed from office. Stephen D'Souza explains.
A witch hunt, it's a sham, it's a hoax. Nothing was done wrong.
As surely as Donald Trump will be impeached by the Democratic majority in the House of Representatives next week, it's incredibly unlikely he'll be convicted and removed from office when the articles of impeachment go to trial in the Senate. That's because some Republican senators are making no secret what they'll do.
This thing will come to the Senate, and it will die quickly, and I will do everything I can to make it die quickly.
In fact, the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, says Trump will have a say in the kind of trial he has.
I'm going to coordinate with the president's lawyers, so there won't be any difference between us on how to do this.
That admission from Republicans has Democrats incredulous.
I think that is an outrage, and the American people will think it's an outrage as well. That is a sham. It is disrespectful to the Constitution, and I think everyone should demand a fair trial.
Republicans accuse the Democrats of doing the same thing during the Clinton impeachment trial, but some legal experts say this is far worse.
Imagine if you had a murder trial and the head juror was in bed with the alleged murderer. Would we view that as the way the criminal justice system is supposed to work? We would be outraged.
A 2/3 majority is needed in the Senate to convict and remove a president, so 20 or so Republicans would have to defect. But Democrats are hoping they can still influence the process. Motions in a trial only need a simple majority, so just 4 Republicans would have to go against the president.
I think that the American people are smart. I hope they look at the facts.
On fairness, Republicans offer this.
If you don't like President Trump, you can vote against him in less than a year.
The Senate trial is expected to begin in early January. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
A Netflix parody is taking heat over its portrayal of Jesus. 1.5 million people have signed a petition demanding the show be removed. Arts reporter Yelena Adzik explains why.
What we're talking about here is a one-off Netflix comedy special from a Brazilian sketch comedy troupe that implies Jesus is in a romantic relationship with his male friend. Here's a quick look at the first temptation of Christ.
Uau,
Tudo bem? Não é nada. Sai.
Quem é? Não vai apresentar seu amigo?
O que é quem?
Todo descabelado.
Você tá indo embora.
Mas e Orlando da onde?
Do deserto, pai.
Graça, ela meia sabata, hein?
Okay, so it's a premise that has many around the world protesting. More than 1.5 million people have signed a petition calling for Netflix to remove the Christmas parody film, which, by the way, is available in Canada. A description of the show reads, Jesus, who's hitting the big 3-0, brings a surprise guest to meet the family. A Christmas special so wrong, it must be from comedians Porta dos Fundos. It's worth noting that that comedy troupe has more than 16.2 million YouTube subscribers. They're known for a raunchy brand of comedy, and this is their second holiday special. Recently, they won an international Emmy for a previous one called The Last Hangover, a spoof on the biblical Last Supper. Christians who signed the Change.org petition, written in Portuguese, they called the current spoof offensive to God and Catholics, an immoral movie against family and against society. The ire was especially prevalent in Brazil, where more than 120 million Brazilians comprise the world's largest Catholic population. Its president once called himself a proud homophobe. In response to the film, the president's son sent out this tweet. Quote, "We support freedom of expression, but is it worth attacking the belief of 86% of the population?" As for Netflix's comments on this Christmas special, well, so far, it's been a silent night. Yelena Adzik, CBC News, Toronto.
Socks on, pants off. These joggers stripped almost bare, tearing through the streets of Toronto. More on the heartwarming reason why after the break. Well, there are only 10 days left until Christmas, and the holiday spirit is in full swing in Mississauga, with an organization giving out turkeys to those in need this morning.
The whole idea is to participate in the cheer and help the ones who are really in need.
This is the best we can do, put a turkey on the table so those people who cannot afford it are able to enjoy their Christmas.
All of us are immigrants, and this country has embraced us. It is time for us to embrace the country.
Lovely effort. The turkeys were distributed on behalf of the Muslim community of Mississauga. The hope? For everyone to have a hearty meal during the holiday season. Now, along with the turkeys, toys and clothes were also handed out to families in need. It is wet, slushy, and cold out there, but none of that was enough to stop some very determined Speedo sprinters.
You know you want it! A little cool and damp, but not as bad as sometimes. It's been colder.
I decided to do this.
It's his fault.
It's my fault. I've done it 3 years before this, and I signed these two up to help out. We wanted to raise money for Toronto Sick Kids Hospital.
My daughter wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for sick kids, so that's why I do it.
I've got a good friend whose kid had been through Sick Kids for many years, so we're doing this for them. You know what? I've raised so much money because of how crazy this is versus anything else I've ever done, so I'll keep doing this all day long.
It doesn't matter that we're running around in swimsuits. We're doing it for some people that really need it.
Strip down, get freezing cold, lose all sensation in our bodies.
I wouldn't do this for anyone else, you know.
Aren't they just the bravest souls out there, Sonia?
Oh my goodness, would you ever do that?
I'm going to give that a hard no.
Yeah,
I will
too.
support happily
Me
someone
too.
else to do it.
Absolutely, but I love that Speedo Sprint. That just makes you feel warm after a -8 degrees today. Yes, thank you. That cold does lock in tomorrow, but let's talk about right now. It is -8. It's going to feel like -8 right now. And the snow. It was a rain that turned into snow, and that is going to continue into tomorrow. Let's take a closer look at that, the snow squalls. So again, behind that system are the snow squalls in and around the Great Lakes, of course. Will Toronto see a dusting? You might. We could see up to 3 centimeters in and around Toronto and the GTA as well. But in the afternoon, it's going to feel like -9. So again, that cold air really starts to dig in and lock in tomorrow, and it's going to get colder and colder. But let's take a look at London -2. Again, we're going to see some of that active weather, that snow, and of course, the further north we go, more of that snow continues going into tomorrow and Monday. We are, as I mentioned earlier, this system that we have our eye on that might nick Toronto and the GTA, bringing with it maybe 1 or 2 centimeters of snow, but it could be just a dusting. But this is a closer look at that. So this high pressure system is bringing in the cold air, and this high pressure system here is bringing in the moisture. And what does that mean? Well, it is literally the battle of the air masses. So in between there, we could see to the north more of that snow. In the middle, that rain-snow mix, and then to the south, more of that rain. So that's what we can expect over the next couple of days.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sonia.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Have yourselves a great night, everyone.